The smell of fresh motor oil and chrome polish still lingered on my hands as I stepped back to admire 18 months of pure dedication. My 1969 Mustang Boss 429 sat gleaming under the garage lights like a mechanical work of art. Grabber orange paint so deep you could swim in it. 429 Super Cobra jet engine purring like a contented lion. After losing my wife Maria 3 years ago, this restoration had become my therapy, my escape, my way of keeping my hands busy while my heart slowly healed. I was just reaching for my coffee when the morning exploded into chaos. 8 police cruisers screamed into my driveway with full lights blazing, like I was running a cartel operation instead of fixing classic cars. The crunch of boots on gravel, radio static crackling through the air, officers deploying with military precision. And there, behind Sergeant Thompson, stood my HOA president neighbor, Patricia Whitmore, pointing at my property with the righteous fury of someone reporting a war crime. "That's him! That's the car thief. He stole my Boss 429. Here's the kicker. The stolen car she's screaming about? It's sitting right there in my own driveway, where I legally parked it after $25,000 and countless weekends of blood, sweat, and determination." The confused expressions on those officers' faces when I hit my garage door remote? Absolutely priceless. What would you do if your neighbor tried to steal your car by calling the cops? Drop a flag emoji. Let's see how far this insanity travels. I'm Jake Rodriguez, third-generation auto restoration specialist. My grandfather started Rodriguez Classic Motors in 1962. My father expanded it into Riverside County's premier muscle car shop, and I've carried the torch for 15 years. When my wife Maria passed from cancer 3 years ago, I moved to this ranch house in Willow Creek Estates to be closer to the shop and give my twin sons stability. Diego and Alex are Cal State juniors studying engineering, makes this grease monkey proud. They learned that honest craftsmanship beats flashy credentials. Willow Creek used to be blue-collar paradise. Firefighters, teachers, construction workers who waved and brought homemade enchiladas during holidays. My shop was grandfathered when the city rezoned in 1995, perfectly legal. Then gentrification hit like a wrecking ball. Tech money from Silicon Valley skyrocketed property values. $1 million cracker box owners bought our $300,000 homes for cash, transforming our working-class community into bougie suburbia where coffee costs $8. Enter Patricia Whitmore, retired pharmaceutical executive who traded her San Francisco penthouse for our biggest house. Picture someone who name-drops her Stanford MBA checking mailbox mail, wears designer yoga pants, and treats service workers like NPCs. She drives 3 luxury cars and considers anyone earning under 6 figures subhuman. Patricia appointed herself HOA Compliance Director, a position existing only in her fantasies, and declared war on everything livable about our neighborhood. Target number 1, me. Complaints started before my moving trucks finished. Weekly letters about industrial noise pollution and questionable clientele, code for my Latino customers who had trusted our family for decades. She measured my fence with a surveyor's level, photographed every customer vehicle, demanded I relocate somewhere more appropriate. Her complaint letters used ivory cardstock costing more per sheet than most groceries, each dripped with coded racism, suggesting my shop attracted undesirable elements. Patricia would stand in her manicured yard glaring at customers with contempt. Mrs. Gonzalez bringing her Honda for inspection? Suspicious. Tommy learning engine repair for college? Definitely trouble. She cornered me at the neighborhood barbecue after complimenting my carne asada, suggesting I explore opportunities in industrial areas. Pure harassment disguised as protecting property values. Then came her nuclear option. Patricia bombarded code enforcement with environmental reports, claiming my shop poisoned the watershed. Said customer vehicles leaked toxic fluids into storm drains, threatening children's health. Reality? I'd installed a $20,000 fluid containment system. Every drop gets captured and recycled. My environmental record is spotless, and I have county awards for green practices. But Patricia provided evidence of oil stains leading to storm drains. When Inspector Williams arrived, my security footage revealed the truth. Those stains came from Patricia's BMW hemorrhaging transmission fluid in her own driveway. His face went from skeptical to furious. He warned her that filing false environmental reports is a federal crime with serious penalties. My first taste of Patricia's character, willing to lie to destroy my livelihood. I had no idea how much deeper she'd sink. The Mustang wasn't some midlife crisis purchase. I found her at an estate sale 18 months ago, a rust-eaten corpse that most people would have hauled to the scrapyard for $50. But underneath all that decay, I saw pure American muscle waiting to breathe again. $4,500 later, she was mine. Every weekend for a year and a half became my personal resurrection project. New 429. Super Cobra jet engine rebuilt from the ground up, completely rebuilt. Top loader 4-speed transmission. Full suspension overhaul with modern performance upgrades. The paint job alone took 6 months of sanding, priming, and color sanding until the grabber orange finish could blind low-flying aircraft. I documented every bolt, every gasket, every drop of sweat with photos for insurance purposes. Kept every receipt in a 3-ring binder thicker than a phone book. The smell of fresh primer and metal shavings became my Saturday morning cologne, coffee growing cold on my workbench, while I lost myself in the meditation of mechanical perfection. This wasn't just restoration, it was resurrection, taking something broken and forgotten and making it better than it ever was. Teaching my sons that patient craftsmanship creates something money can't buy. 2 weeks before the garage door incident, Patricia had marched over while I was bleeding brake lines. The screech of my impact wrench apparently offended her delicate sensibilities. "Excuse me, but there's a noise ordinance," she announced, checking her Apple Watch like she had somewhere important to be. "No power tools after 6 p.m. I wiped my hands on a shop rag, stayed diplomatic. "Actually, city ordinance permits hobby work until 9 p.m. Happy to show you the documentation." Her smile turned arctic. "Well, we'll see about that. This kind of industrial activity affects everyone's property values." The way she said industrial activity, like I was running a meth lab instead of restoring American automotive history, told me everything about her mindset. The day everything exploded started with Patricia's monthly wine and wine party. Saturday afternoon, her backyard filled with neighborhood wives sipping Chardonnay and pretending to care about each other's Pallades progress. I could hear the artificial laughter through my garage walls while I torqued head bolts to specification. Then her voice cut through the chatter like fingernails on glass. "Oh, that's my new Boss 429. Just bought it from a classic car dealer in Phoenix. $60,000, but totally worth it for a numbers-matching original. They're shipping it next week." My socket wrench clattered to the concrete floor. Through the window, I watched her showing people photos on her phone, photos of a car identical to mine, basking in their impressed oohs and ahs like she'd personally invented the internal combustion engine. That afternoon, needing brake fluid from Napa, I fired up my baby and backed out slowly. The 429's rumble echoed off the houses like mechanical thunder, deep and primal and absolutely gorgeous. When I returned an hour later, Patricia stood in her driveway like a statue of suburban rage, arms crossed, face flushed, staring at my Mustang with the intensity of a hawk watching a field mouse. I nodded politely. She didn't respond, just kept boring holes through my boss with those predator eyes. That night, I'm betting she spent hours online, building her delusion, brick by digital brick, convincing herself that somehow, some way, I'd stolen her imaginary purchase. By morning, she'd transformed from annoying neighbor into something far more dangerous. A Karen with a cause. When 6 patrol cars screeched into my driveway with full light show blazing, I knew my peaceful Saturday morning was officially screwed. 8 officers poured out like they were responding to an armed bank robbery, which, according to Patricia's Academy Award-worthy 911 performance, they were. Sergeant Thompson, a 20-year veteran with kind eyes and the patient demeanor of someone who'd seen every flavor of neighborhood crazy, approached with his hand resting casually on his belt. His partner, Officer Martinez, a younger guy who looked like he bench-pressed squad cars for cardio, flanked him with notebook ready. "Morning, sir. We received a report about a stolen vehicle at this address." The sheer absurdity hit me like a brick to the forehead. "Stolen vehicle, officer? This is my car, in my garage, at my house. That's like saying I stole my own refrigerator." Patricia materialized beside the officers like a suburban poltergeist, still clutching her phone with white knuckles. "That's him! That's the car thief! I just bought that exact Mustang yesterday for $60,000. I took a deep breath, tasting the lingering exhaust fumes from my perfectly legal muscle car, and tried not to laugh at the cosmic joke my life had become. "Stay calm," I reminded myself. My old man always said, Documentation beats desperation every time. Officers, I can prove ownership right now. I pulled out my phone, scrolling to the photo album I'd obsessively maintained. This car has been mine for 18 months. I rebuilt every bolt from scratch. Thompson studied the progression photos with genuine interest. Rust bucket to rolling chassis to painted perfection. His eyebrows climbed as he swiped through images of me installing the engine block, priming body panels, stitching the interior. "That's some serious craftsmanship," he murmured, zooming in on a shot of the engine bay. "You do this professionally?" "Family business. My grandfather would have beaten me with a wrench if I'd done sloppy work." Meanwhile, Patricia was having what appeared to be a full psychological break. "He's lying. Look at these." She thrust printed photos at the officers, clearly downloaded from some dealer website 5 minutes before calling 911. "I wired the money yesterday. They were shipping it this week." Martinez examined her evidence with the enthusiasm of someone reviewing tax documents. Generic dealer stock photos, no VIN numbers, no actual paperwork, just glossy images that could have been any Orange Boss 429 built between 1969 and yesterday. "Ma'am, do you have purchase documentation, bill of sale, wire transfer receipts, dealer contact information?" Patricia's face turned the approximate color of a fire engine. It's all being processed. The dealer said paperwork takes time for classic cars." While she improvised her explanation, I was digging through my garage workbench like an automotive archaeologist. 3-ring binder organized by date, containing the complete genealogy of my mechanical baby. "Here's my DMV registration," I said, handing Thompson the holy grail of vehicle ownership. 18 months old, my name, this address, matching VIN. His flashlight beam danced across the official state document. Everything aligned perfectly. Numbers, dates, signatures, the works. Insurance policy, too. I flipped to the next plastic sleeve. Haggerty required photos of the restoration progress for agreed value coverage. Martinez was scribbling notes, occasionally glancing at Patricia's increasingly creative explanations. The woman was unraveling faster than a clearance sweater, and I was starting to feel almost sorry for her. Almost. "Officers, he obviously forged everything," Patricia shrieked. "He's probably running some sophisticated identity theft operation." That accusation was my cue to deploy the nuclear option. From the very back of my binder, I extracted a piece of yellow legal paper, edges soft from handling and memory, written in the shaky cursive of an 87-year-old widow. 1969 Chevrolet Mustang Boss 429. Condition as is. Extensive rust damage throughout. $4,500 cash. Buyer assumes all responsibility. Below that, a signature that belonged in a museum. Dorothy Henderson, estate sale, followed by a phone number and date from 18 months ago. Thompson examined the handwritten bill of sale like he'd discovered buried treasure. "This is the original purchase document?" Dorothy was selling her late husband's project cars. Sweetest lady you'd ever meet. Made me promise to bring the car back for her to see when I finished. The silence that followed was so complete I could hear my neighbor's sprinkler system 3 houses down. Martinez closed his notebook with the finality of a judge's gavel. "Ma'am, this gentleman has clear chain of ownership documentation spanning over a year. Your evidence appears to be internet printouts." Thompson's tone shifted to that special register cops reserve for people having public meltdowns. "Ma'am, I need to inform you that filing a false police report is a misdemeanor offense in this state. I've seen people get real jail time for knowingly providing false information to law enforcement." The color drained from Patricia's face like someone had opened a valve. There must be some terrible mistake, the stress of car shopping. You know how confusing these things can be." But her eyes told a different story. As the officers prepared to leave, I caught her staring at me through her living room window, with the cold calculation of a chess master planning her next move. This wasn't over. This was just round 1. Monday morning slapped me awake with the subtlety of a diesel engine backfiring. I'm stumbling to my mailbox in yesterday's work clothes, coffee mug steaming in the crisp air, when I spot the official HOA violation notice tucked inside like a venomous snake. Notice of covenant violation, unauthorized commercial vehicle storage. The citation claimed my work van, a perfectly ordinary Ford Transit with Rodriguez Classic Motors painted on the side, violated community standards, $300 fine, 48-hour compliance deadline. At the bottom, Patricia's signature flourished like she'd just signed my death warrant. Through my kitchen window, I watched her power walk past my driveway, shooting glances at my van like it was parked on her grandmother's grave. Her morning jog route had mysteriously expanded to include 17 passes by my house. I counted. Here's what most homeowners don't realize about HOA covenants. They're actual legal contracts, not suggestions written by suburban dictators having midlife crises. My divorce lawyer had taught me that everything has a paper trail, and paper trails don't lie. I spent my lunch break at the county courthouse, digging through public records like an automotive archaeologist. What I discovered was better than finding a winning lottery ticket in my back pocket. My van, purchased in 2016, Willow Creek's commercial vehicle restrictions. Enacted in 2019, any vehicles owned before rule changes are automatically grandfathered in, protected by law from retroactive enforcement. Patricia could complain until her vocal cords snapped, but she had zero legal authority. I drafted a response that would have made my old man proud, attached copies of my purchase documentation, and hand-delivered it to the HOA management office. The receptionist's eyes widened as she read my rebuttal, probably calculating how much trouble her Star Board member had just bought herself. "Oh dear," she whispered, like she was watching a car accident in slow motion. "Mrs. Whitmore isn't going to appreciate this development." She had that right. By Wednesday, my mailbox had become Patricia's personal complaint distribution center. 3 more violation notices materialized like bad magic. Alleged oil stains on my driveway. I power wash monthly with the dedication of a monk. Excessive automotive odors from my garage. Apparently the honest smell of WD-40 and determination offended her delicate suburban sensibilities. Noise violations during perfectly legal hours. The woman was carpet bombing me with paperwork, hoping something would stick. That's when I made the smartest investment of this entire war. I went full Big Brother on my own property. 6 high-definition security cameras strategically positioned, all recording to cloud storage with night vision that could spot a mosquito landing on my mailbox. The footage revealed Patricia's new hobby, property line surveillance. Every morning, she'd patrol our shared fence with her iPhone, taking photos, measuring distances with a collapsible yardstick that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. The woman had turned neighbor watching into an Olympic sport. Thursday evening brought the nuclear option, an emergency board meeting to address my ongoing violations. The notice appeared in my mailbox at 4 p.m. for a 7 p.m. meeting, barely legal notification designed to prevent anyone from mounting an actual defense. I showed up at the community center expecting a kangaroo court and found something worse. 4 middle-aged women sitting around a conference table like they were planning a church fundraiser. Patricia, her nervous lieutenant Susan, who apologized for breathing too loudly. Janet, whose primary qualification appeared to be nodding enthusiastically at everything Patricia said. And Margaret, the treasurer who looked like she'd rather be anywhere else. "Where's the rest of the board?" I asked, claiming a chair across from this improvised tribunal. Patricia's smile could have preserved meat for winter. "This is quite sufficient for tonight's business. We're implementing an emergency ban on all automotive repair activities, effective immediately. Past violations carry a $500 fine." I pulled out my phone and opened the HOA bylaws I'd memorized that afternoon. Knowledge is power, but applied knowledge is a tactical nuclear weapon. "Fascinating theories," I said, scrolling through the document like I was reading a restaurant menu. "But Section 4.3 requires 7 days advance notice for voting matters." I looked around the pathetically empty room. "And Section 4.7 mandates a quorum of 5 board members for official votes. I count 4 people, which gives this meeting all the legal authority of a neighborhood book club." Susan's face turned the color of overcooked shrimp. "Well, this is just preliminary discussion." And Section 2.9 states that invalid meetings create personal liability for individual board members. I'd done my homework. Thanks to 3 hours of legal research and a pot of very strong coffee, Patricia's composure shattered like safety glass. "You think you're so smart, don't you?" The venom in her voice could have stripped paint. "Coming into our neighborhood with your people and your activities." But my old man had taught me something valuable about dealing with bullies. Stay calm, stick to facts. Let crazy people hang themselves with their own rope. "I think I'm a homeowner who reads contracts before signing them," I replied. "Novel concept, I know." That's when neighbor Tom appeared in my driveway later, apologetic and slightly embarrassed. "Most of us think she's completely lost it," he confided. "Want to grab coffee tomorrow? I think it's time we talked." Friday morning brought an unexpected doorbell symphony at 7:15 a.m. Dave Martinez from City Code Enforcement stood on my porch, clipboard in hand, with the 1,000-yard stare of someone who'd spent too many years mediating neighbor wars. "Sorry to bother you this early, Mr. Rodriguez. Anonymous complaint about unlicensed commercial auto repair. Mind if I take a look?" I led him into my garage, where the morning light illuminated my weekend sanctuary. The smell of metal polish and clean motor oil hung in the air like expensive cologne, and every tool had its designated home on pegboard walls that would make a Swiss watchmaker weep with envy. Dave's tension evaporated the moment he stepped inside. "Jesus, this is cleaner than the shop where I get my truck serviced." He ran his finger along my workbench, coming up spotless. "What do you do for work?" "Family restoration business. This is pure hobby. Weekends only, no customers." He nodded, scribbling notes while admiring my engine hoist setup. "Anonymous complainant claimed you were running an illegal business. I see zero evidence of commercial activity, customer vehicles, or cash transactions. You're absolutely golden." As Dave climbed back into his city truck, he paused with one foot on the running board. "Off the record? I've been to this neighborhood 6 times this month. Same voice every time, different complaints. Lady needs a hobby that doesn't involve my department." Patricia's next masterstroke arrived via certified mail, a formal complaint to my homeowner's insurance company. She'd contacted State Farm directly, claiming my garage activities created an unacceptable fire hazard threatening neighboring properties. The letter demanded immediate inspection or policy cancellation. When my insurance agent, Bill Thompson, showed up Tuesday afternoon, I braced for bureaucratic hell. Instead, I found a kindred spirit who spent the first 10 minutes admiring my boss, 429's engine bay like it was the Sistine Chapel. "Someone's definitely trying to screw with you," he said, signing his inspection report with a flourish. "Your fire safety setup exceeds commercial standards. Half these neighborhood garages are death traps with their propane tanks and extension cord Christmas trees." Bill's company responded by sending Patricia a cease and desist letter that basically translated to, "Stop filing false insurance claims, or we'll prosecute you for fraud, Karen." But our neighborhood Napoleon had discovered the nuclear weapon of modern warfare, social media. The Protect Willow Creek character Facebook group materialized overnight like a digital cancer. Patricia's inaugural post featured photos of my work van and garage, accompanied by prose that would make a dog whistle manufacturer proud. "Just concerned about maintaining our beautiful community standards. Some recent activities might be more appropriate in industrial zones, don't you think?" Tom showed me the screenshots over coffee, his face redder than a fire engine. 28 people joined in the first hour. It's like watching a dumpster fire, but you can't look away. The comment section became a gladiatorial arena. Several neighbors jumped to my defense, sharing their own Patricia horror stories. Others lurked silently, probably calculating the social cost of opposing the HOA's reigning dictator. Patricia's digital dictatorship imploded when she started deleting disagreeable comments. Nothing ignites suburban fury quite like obvious censorship, and soon the group fractured into warring factions debating everything from free speech to property values. Sunday morning brought escalation to my actual property. Scattered across my driveway like metallic confetti, 24 roofing nails strategically positioned to puncture unwary tires. My security cameras captured the 2 a.m. perpetrator, a figure in a dark hoodie moving with the nervous energy of someone committing their first felony. The footage was grainy, but that distinctive quick-step march looked familiar. Patricia walked like she was perpetually late for an argument. Officer Martinez treated my police report with appropriate seriousness, especially when I explained the escalating harassment timeline. "Classic intimidation pattern," he observed, photographing the evidence. "Document everything. These cases simmer for months, then explode into arrests very quickly." While obsessively reviewing camera footage, I spotted something that made my coffee go cold. Patricia's morning routine now included detailed reconnaissance missions, walking our property line with her phone, measuring distances, photographing angles. This wasn't random harassment. She was conducting military-grade surveillance for some larger operation. Wednesday's mail delivered the nuclear option, an anonymous letter on generic printer paper. "Your kind doesn't belong here. Leave voluntarily or face escalating consequences." No signature, no return address. But the paper stock matched Patricia's HOA notices perfectly. My divorce lawyer had taught me enough about document analysis to recognize identical watermarks and printer signatures. Detective Sarah Chen, assigned to my growing case file, examined the letter with professional interest. Anonymous threatening correspondence qualifies for hate crime prosecution under both state and federal statutes, she explained. We're building a substantial criminal case against your neighbor. That evening, Tom's Coffee Shop Coalition expanded to 8 households, each armed with their own Patricia documentation. Mike the lawyer had been fined for unauthorized mailbox fonts. Sarah the accountant got cited for planting flowers without architectural committee approval. Time for coordinated resistance, Tom declared, stirring sugar with revolutionary fervor. Individual complaints get ignored. Group action gets results. As we shared war stories and legal strategies, I realized Patricia had accidentally created her own worst nightmare. A unified neighborhood opposition, with legitimate grievances and professional expertise. The hunter had become the hunted. Friday afternoon found me in the county courthouse basement, a fluorescent-lit purgatory that smelled like old coffee and bureaucratic despair. The records clerk, a woman who'd apparently been filing documents since the Carter administration, directed me to research room B with the enthusiasm of someone pointing toward a public restroom. HOA financial records are in the corporate filings, she wheezed, sliding a dusty box across the counter. Good luck making sense of that mess. 3 hours later, surrounded by paper stacks that looked like a tornado had hit an accounting firm, I discovered why Patricia guarded these documents like nuclear launch codes. Willow Creek's HOA financial statements read like a masterclass in creative embezzlement. $18,000 paid to PW Property Solutions for undefined consulting services. $12,500 to Whitmore Gardens for landscaping that had never materialized. $15,000 to Patricia and Associates for legal services that coincidentally began exactly when Patricia's ex-husband filed for divorce. The beautiful part, all 3 companies shared the same business address, 1247 Oakwood Drive, Patricia's house. A quick dive into the state business registry confirmed what my gut already knew. PW Property Solutions, sole proprietor Patricia Whitmore, established 6 months after her divorce filing. Whitmore Gardens officially dissolved last year after completing 0 actual projects. Patricia and Associates, her ex-husband's law firm, which explained her sudden need for untraceable income. Our elected HOA president had been systematically looting the neighborhood fund like a suburban Pablo Escobar, funneling approximately $89,000 into her personal legal defense fund over 3 years. But the discovery that made my hands shake wasn't the theft itself. It was the hunting pattern hidden beneath. Cross-referencing complaint dates with recent real estate sales, I uncovered Patricia's true business model. She'd systematically target homeowners with escalating harassment until they sold below market value, then use her real estate license to facilitate quick sales to investor contacts, double commission plus kickbacks from grateful buyers picking up distressed properties. 4 families had fled Willow Creek in the past year after surviving Patricia's special attention. The Johnsons sold $35,000 under appraisal after months of citations about their son's basketball hoop creating excessive noise. The Nguyens surrendered and moved after weekly violations for culturally inappropriate cooking odors that allegedly violated community standards. The Martinez family left after Patricia claimed their work trucks were commercial vehicles, despite grandfather clause protections. My case fit her playbook perfectly. Single homeowner, no family support network, prime property worth $420,000. Perfect target for forced sale manipulation. The nuclear revelation was buried in a stack of foreclosure notices. When I found it, I actually laughed out loud in that tomb-quiet research room. Patricia's own house was in default. $31,000 in unpaid HOA dues to her own association. Back taxes, attorney fees, credit card debt, the works. Her foreclosure hearing was scheduled for exactly 5 weeks from today. The irony was so perfect it belonged in a country song. Our HOA president, the woman who terrorized neighbors over minor rule violations, hadn't paid her own dues in over 18 months. Everything clicked into focus like adjusting a camera lens. The escalating desperation, the increasingly unhinged harassment, the willingness to file false police reports. Patricia wasn't just a power-hungry Karen. She was a cornered animal facing financial obliteration, and I represented her last chance at a major commission before the bank seized everything. The Mustang incident had given her the perfect excuse to accelerate her timeline. I photocopied everything, my hands trembling slightly as the machine hummed through page after page of evidence. $23 for the privilege of documenting my neighbor's criminal enterprise. The best money I'd ever spent. Walking back to my truck in the courthouse parking lot, I called Tom with news that would reshape our entire strategy. "You sitting down? Because what I just found changes everything." The war was about to shift from survival to offense, and Patricia had no idea the trap was closing around her. Saturday morning, Tom called an emergency coffee meeting in his garage. The smell of motor oil and fresh coffee mixed as our unlikely crew gathered around his workbench. Sarah, the forensic accountant, Mike, the lawyer, Linda, the high school principal, and Carlos, the contractor. "This is insane," Sarah said, spreading Patricia's financial records across the table. "She's stolen $89,000 with the subtlety of a brick through a window." Mike scanned the documents, his lawyer instincts kicking in. Paper trail's perfect. Documented harassment, fraudulent transactions. Prosecutors would kill for a case this clean. Linda was already organizing everything chronologically. "Look at this pattern. She targets families, escalates violations for months, then magically produces buyers when they break." Carlos whistled low. "Using HOA money for divorce lawyers? That's not genius, that's stupid." We spent 2 hours planning our response. "We need cameras everywhere," Carlos said. "If she so much as looks at Jake's property wrong, we'll have it documented." Linda nodded. "And proper incident reports. Dates, times, witnesses, photos. Build a case file that's bulletproof." Sarah was already pulling out her phone. "I'll call in favors for an independent audit, something that'll hold up in federal court." Mike explained the legal strategy. Board members have fiduciary duties. Every fraudulent transaction creates personal liability. She's destroying her own protection. The timing was perfect. Board elections were coming up. Tom, Sarah, and Mike would run for open positions, flipping control from Patricia's allies. "Criminal complaint gets filed Tuesday," Mike continued. "Embezzlement, harassment, false reports. She's looking at serious felony charges." Linda suggested going door to door. "Information campaign. Let neighbors know what she's really doing with their money." The math was staggering. $89,000 stolen from 45 households meant every family lost nearly $2,000. When people discover their HOA president's been robbing them, things move fast. "Media's gonna love this," Carlos added. "HOA president steals money while harassing minorities. Channel 7 would interrupt regular programming." Our strategy was simple. Let Patricia think she was winning while we built an airtight case. I'd act normal, stay quiet, and let her desperation create more evidence. "Classic rope-a-dope," Mike said. "Let her throw wild punches while we document everything." The timeline convergence was poetry. Patricia's foreclosure hearing in 4 weeks, audit results in 3 weeks, board elections in 5 weeks. Multiple disasters arriving simultaneously like a perfectly choreographed demolition. Sarah had already contacted Channel 7's investigative pitbull, Janet Mills, a reporter who'd built her Emmy collection, exposing suburban corruption. HOA fraud stories generate massive ratings. She's practically drooling to cover this train wreck. Mike discovered the final nail for Patricia's professional coffin. Her real estate license renewal, in 6 weeks, required criminal background disclosure. Fraud convictions meant automatic permanent revocation. "Complete career obliteration," he said, with the warm satisfaction of someone describing a perfect sunset. "Financial ruin plus professional destruction equals total annihilation." As our suburban war council dispersed, Tom grabbed my shoulder with genuine respect. "3 months ago, you were the quiet mechanic who minded his own business. Now you're commanding a neighborhood revolution." I surveyed our evidence walls, battle plans, and coalition schedules. The transformation from isolated target to resistance leader felt surreal, like discovering you could fly. "Sometimes bullies pick the wrong victim," I replied. "Patricia's about to learn that lesson the hard way." The trap was baited, loaded, and perfectly positioned. Now we just waited for our cornered predator to trigger her own destruction. Monday morning brought the sweet sound of panic in the form of Patricia's voice echoing across the neighborhood, like a fire alarm having a nervous breakdown. She was pacing her driveway at 7 a.m., phone pressed to her ear, gesticulating wildly at anyone unfortunate enough to make eye contact. "I need an emergency board meeting tonight," her voice carried across the morning air. "Something's happening, and I need legal protection." Through my kitchen window, I watched her attempt to rally her rapidly shrinking support base. Susan shuffled over reluctantly, looking like she'd rather be getting a root canal. Janet followed a few minutes later, but even from a distance I could see the doubt creeping into their body language. The emergency assessment notice appeared in every mailbox by noon. $600 per household for immediate legal defense against outside agitators attempting to destabilize community governance. The letter claimed I was threatening to sue the entire HOA and demanded immediate payment to hire attorneys. What Patricia didn't know was that Tom attended her pathetic 3-person meeting, hidden in the community center parking lot with a digital recorder that picked up every desperate word. "They're investigating our finances," Patricia's voice crackled through the speaker when Tom played it back later. "I don't know how much they know, but we need to control the narrative before this gets out of hand." Susan's nervous response was barely audible. "Patricia, maybe we should just—" "No!" The shrillness in Patricia's voice could have shattered glass. "I've worked too hard building this community to let them destroy everything. If I have to leave town, fine. But I'm not going down alone." The audio quality was courtroom ready, and Mike's predatory grin when he heard it could have powered the neighborhood streetlights. Wednesday night brought Patricia's first act of genuine desperation, vandalism with a side of stupidity. My security cameras caught her sneaking around my property at 2:47 a.m., dressed like a suburban ninja in black Lululemon leggings and a dark hoodie that fooled absolutely no one. She'd brought a toolkit of petty revenge, tire-slashing knife, spray paint, and what appeared to be small containers of motor oil staged behind my garage. The plan was obviously to create evidence of environmental violations, but Patricia had never been accused of criminal genius. The beautiful part: she spent 15 minutes positioning fake evidence while standing directly under my motion-activated floodlight, providing crystal-clear footage of her face, her Lexus's license plate, and her pathetic attempt at frame-up artistry. Thursday morning's code enforcement visit was her most spectacular failure yet. The inspector found the planted oil containers immediately. They still had AutoZone price stickers attached. When he pointed out that fresh motor oil doesn't create environmental violations anyway, Patricia's story collapsed faster than a house of cards in a hurricane. "Ma'am, filing false environmental reports is a federal offense," the inspector explained with barely concealed irritation. "I'm documenting this incident and forwarding it to our fraud investigation unit." Patricia's social media meltdown began that afternoon and continued through the weekend like a digital dumpster fire that nobody could look away from. The Protect Willow Creek Character Facebook group became her personal therapy session, complete with increasingly unhinged rants about outside agitators and property value destruction. Her 2 a.m. post on Friday was a masterpiece of self-incrimination. Some people don't understand that communities have standards. When certain elements move in and start changing the character of established neighborhoods, decent people have to take action to protect their investments. Screenshot saved, forwarded to our legal team. Saturday brought the bribery attempt that sealed her fate. Carlos was installing camera equipment at Linda's house when Patricia approached with the subtlety of a used car salesman at month end. "I know Jake is paying you people to lie about me," she said, pulling out an envelope thick enough to choke a horse. $3,000 cash if you forget about those security cameras and stop helping with this harassment campaign. Carlos, bless his contractor's soul, kept installing cameras while recording the entire conversation on his phone. "Ma'am, I'm just helping neighbors protect their property. Maybe you should talk to a lawyer." "I don't need lawyers. I need this neighborhood back under control." Her voice pitched higher than a smoke detector. "That man has turned everyone against me with his lies and manipulation." The desperation was so thick you could spread it on toast. Patricia was unraveling in real time, and every frantic move was creating more evidence for our growing prosecution file. Sunday evening brought the nuclear option. Another false police report claiming I'd threatened her with a weapon during a driveway confrontation that never happened. The responding officers found me in my garage, covered in grease, working on a neighbor's carburetor with 3 witnesses present. Officer Martinez's patience had officially evaporated. "Ma'am, this is your 5th false report in 3 weeks. You're looking at charges." The preliminary audit results arrived Monday via Sarah's encrypted email, and the numbers were even worse than our original estimates. Patricia hadn't just stolen $89,000. She'd been systematically overcharging every household for phantom services while pocketing the excess. Total theft, approximately $127,000 over 3 years. Our neighborhood dictator wasn't just broke and desperate. She was a career criminal who'd finally run out of victims and time. The endgame was accelerating beyond our wildest projections, and Patricia was doing all the work for us. Tuesday night's break-in was the kind of criminal masterpiece that would make the Three Stooges proud. At 2:33 a.m., while normal people were dreaming about vacation destinations and winning lottery numbers, Patricia was living her best burglar life at the HOA management office. The security footage looked like a rejected scene from a heist movie written by someone who'd never actually committed a crime. There was our Suburban Napoleon using a stolen master key with all the stealth of a rhinoceros and tap shoes, frantically feeding documents into an industrial shredder like she was making the world's most expensive confetti. The silent alarm triggered faster than Patricia's common sense had abandoned her, and Officer Rodriguez arrived to find her elbow deep in evidence destruction, surrounded by paper snow that used to be financial records. "Ma'am, step away from the computer and put your hands where I can see them," Rodriguez commanded, probably wondering how his Tuesday night shift had turned into amateur hour at the crime academy. Patricia's response was pure daytime television gold. "You don't understand. They're destroying everything I've built. This community was perfect before they came." The smell of overheated electronics and desperate sweat filled the office as she was cuffed and read her rights. Watching the footage later, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Until I remembered the fake police reports and tire-slashing incidents. Bail was set at $35,000, which for Patricia might as well have been $35 million, considering her financial situation resembled the Titanic after meeting the iceberg. She spent 4 days in county lockup, probably the first time in her adult life she'd been somewhere without a manager to complain to. While our fallen dictator was enjoying government hospitality, Susan made the decision that would seal Patricia's fate forever. She visited the jail with a digital recorder hidden in her purse, and what she captured was prosecutorial poetry. "I need your help, Susan," Patricia's voice cracked through the phone speaker when Susan played the recording for our coalition. The desperation was so thick you could taste it. "There's money in my garage behind the water heater. Cash. We can both disappear before this gets worse." Susan's nervous response barely registered. "Patricia, I can't." $75,000. "Help me, and we start over somewhere else. They don't know us in Nevada." Mike whistled low when he heard the recording. Admissions of theft, conspiracy, flight risk, obstruction of justice. This woman just confessed to everything while sitting in jail. It's like she's trying to set records for criminal stupidity. Thursday evening's emergency neighborhood meeting packed the community center beyond capacity. The air crackled with righteous fury and the distinctive aroma of community center coffee that could strip paint. 52 households showed up, and the collective anger could have powered Vegas for a week. Tom presented Sarah's final audit results with the satisfaction of someone revealing a straight flush. The numbers were staggering. Patricia hadn't just stolen $89,000. She'd operated a criminal enterprise that included phantom vendor payments, inflated service contracts, and kickback schemes totaling $127,000 over 3 years. "Every single family in this room has been systematically robbed," Tom announced to gasps and creative profanity that would make sailors blush. "Average theft per household, $2,400. The vote of no confidence was unanimous except for Janet, who abstained while looking like she wanted to tunnel through the floor and emerge somewhere in Canada. 48 households demanded Patricia's immediate removal, criminal prosecution, and full restitution with interest. Friday morning brought the media circus Patricia had always craved, just not in the starring role she'd imagined. Channel 7's news van arrived at dawn, followed by crews from competing stations who'd caught wind of the Suburban scandal goldmine. Investigative reporter Janet Mills interviewed neighbors with the enthusiasm of someone who'd stumbled onto Emmy material. The evening news led with HOA president arrested in massive embezzlement scheme, complete with Patricia's mugshot and security footage of her document-shredding performance art. My interview required every ounce of diplomatic training my divorce had provided. "This isn't about revenge or getting even," I told the camera, choosing words carefully. "It's about holding people accountable when they abuse positions of trust." The story exploded across social media faster than gossip at a high school reunion. Karen was trending nationally within hours, with thousands sharing their own nightmare stories and celebrating our neighborhood's David versus Goliath victory. Patricia's real estate career disintegrated in spectacular fashion. Her brokerage suspended her license immediately, past clients began filing complaints about suspicious transactions, and her professional reputation became more toxic than nuclear waste. The foreclosure auction proceeded without drama. Patricia's house sold for $320,000, $85,000 below market value because criminal investigations and news vans tend to discourage bidders. Saturday's 3 a.m. Facebook confession video was her final act of self-destruction. Sobbing into her phone camera, mascara running like abstract art, she blamed everyone except herself for the consequences of her criminal choices. "I was just trying to protect our community," she wailed to the internet. "Sometimes good people have to make hard decisions." The comment section became a digital firing squad, where neighbors shared years of accumulated grievances. The video disappeared within hours, but screenshots are forever. Our suburban tyrant's reign of terror was officially over. The sentencing hearing on a crisp Thursday morning felt like the season finale of the world's most satisfying reality show. The courthouse parking lot resembled a neighborhood reunion, with 50-plus residents carpooling like we were heading to the world's most important sporting event. Judge Patricia Hernandez's courtroom was packed beyond capacity. Every pew filled with faces I'd come to know as allies over the past 4 months. The smell of nervous energy and courthouse coffee mixed with the collective anticipation of people who'd waited far too long for justice. Patricia sat at the defendant's table in an orange jumpsuit that clashed spectacularly with her fake blonde highlights, looking like a deflated balloon animal beside her overworked public defender. The woman who'd once terrorized our neighborhood with clipboard authority now resembled a suburban scarecrow that had lost a fight with a tornado. Channel 7's cameras were positioned for maximum drama, and Janet Mills had scored front-row seats for what she'd already called the most satisfying HOA story of the decade. When Judge Hernandez called for victim impact statements, I stood first, my heart hammering against my ribs like it was trying to escape. 4 months ago, I'd been a quiet mechanic who kept to himself. Today, I was speaking for an entire community. "Your Honor, this case started with a woman calling 911 because I opened my own garage door," I began, my voice steadier than I'd expected. But it was never really about a car. It was about power, control, and what happens when someone decides they can terrorize their neighbors without consequences. I described the escalating harassment, the fake police reports, the systematic theft that had robbed every family of thousands of dollars. But mostly I talked about fear, the way Patricia had weaponized authority to make people afraid in their own homes. "She didn't just steal our money," I continued, making eye contact with Patricia, who refused to look back. "She stole our peace of mind, our sense of community, our belief that neighbors look out for each other instead of preying on each other." Tom spoke next, his teacher's voice carrying the authority of someone who'd seen human nature at its worst and best. Sarah presented the financial evidence with forensic precision. Linda described the educational impact of watching their community stand up to corruption. When it was Patricia's turn, her attorney launched into a performance worthy of community theater. Mental health struggles, divorce trauma, financial pressure, every excuse except personal responsibility for criminal behavior. "My client deeply regrets her actions," the public defender pleaded. "She's willing to make full restitution and undergo counseling." Patricia finally stood to address the court, and what came out was pure, undiluted audacity wrapped in crocodile tears. "I never meant to hurt anyone," she sobbed, dabbing her eyes with tissues that had seen more action than a NASCAR pit crew. "This community meant everything to me. I was just trying to maintain standards, protect property values. Sometimes people don't understand that leadership requires difficult decisions." The courtroom's collective eye roll was practically audible. Even her own attorney looked like he wanted to crawl under the defense table. Judge Hernandez had clearly heard enough for one lifetime. "Ms. Whitmore, in 30 years on this bench, I've rarely encountered such a systematic abuse of fiduciary responsibility combined with racial harassment and criminal intimidation." She paused, studying Patricia with the expression of someone examining an interesting but repulsive insect specimen. "You held a position of trust and used it to steal from the very people who elected you. You targeted a minority homeowner with false police reports that could have resulted in tragedy. You destroyed evidence, attempted to flee jurisdiction, and even now refuse to accept responsibility for your crimes." The judge's voice carried the weight of absolute authority. "This court sentences you to 5 years in state prison, full restitution of $127,000 plus court costs, and 5 years supervised probation following release. The gavel came down like thunder, and the courtroom erupted in applause that Judge Hernandez didn't even try to quiet. 50 households getting justice sounds different than regular applause. It's deeper, more satisfying, like the sound of the universe correcting itself. As Patricia was led away in shackles, she finally looked back at our section of the courtroom. The expression on her face wasn't remorse or apology. It was pure, concentrated hatred for people who dared to hold her accountable. Outside on the courthouse steps, with cameras rolling and neighbors celebrating, a reporter thrust a microphone in my direction. "Mr. Rodriguez, what would you tell other homeowners dealing with HOA abuse?" I thought about everything we'd been through. The fear, the documentation, the coalition building, the months of preparation that led to this moment. Document everything, build community, truth wins, I said, feeling the weight of 4 months' worth of struggle and triumph in those 6 words. The quote would go viral within hours, becoming a rallying cry for HOA reform movements nationwide. But standing there in the sunshine, surrounded by neighbors who'd become family through shared struggle, I realized something profound. We hadn't just defeated a bully, we'd discovered what a real community could accomplish when good people decided to fight back together. The American dream wasn't just about individual success. It was about neighbors protecting neighbors, justice serving everyone equally, and ordinary people becoming extraordinary when circumstances demanded it. 6 months after Patricia's sentencing, Willow Creek transformed from suburban police state to actual community. Saturday barbecues replaced tension, kids played without fear, and our new HOA board implemented radical concepts like transparency and common sense. Property values increased 18% since our dictator's removal. Turns out, buyers prefer community that defeated corruption over HOA president embezzles while harassing minorities. The restitution payments felt like Christmas. Every household got their stolen money plus interest. Patricia's prison reality was less comfortable. 60 cents an hour in laundry duty, sharing a cell with an armed robber. USC film students turned our story into Garage Door Justice, an American Story. I donated appearance fees to establish the Willow Creek Automotive Education Scholarship. Poetic justice funded by Patricia's payments. 4 local teens received scholarships for automotive programs. Watching Maria Gonzalez graduate with her automotive degree beat any car show trophy. Sarah Chen and I had been dating 6 months. Forensic accountants and mechanics have more in common than expected. My Boss 429 became famous as the car that defeated an HOA Karen. But some things aren't for sale. Our case established legal precedent across 4 states. The legislature passed the Willow Creek Act, requiring HOA financial audits. Mike speaks at legal conferences. I consult with harassed communities nationwide. Monthly block parties replaced fear with friendship. Kids from different families play together, while adults share grilling tips, discovering what suburbs were supposed to be. The sounds drifting through my garage windows now. Tom's lawnmower, Linda's weekend baking, children's laughter. A healthy community, where people choose to help each other instead of tear each other down. Share your HOA nightmare stories in the comments below. Your documentation and persistence might inspire someone else to fight back against their neighborhood tyrant. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories proving that justice still works when ordinary people refuse to accept extraordinary abuse. From all of us here at HOA Stories, thanks so much for watching today's HOA Karen Meltdown. If you enjoyed seeing neighbors stand their ground and karma catch up, smash that like button, leave a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe so you won't miss the next HOA drama we bring you. Remember, document everything. Build community. Truth wins.